All right, so Cooper Flagg was very impressive in his unofficial NBA debut. This was a preseason game against a depleted Oklahoma City Thunder roster. But nonetheless, he was impressive in his first look at NBA action. He put up 10 points along with 3 assists and 6 rebounds. Did alternate a bit, both off the ball and on the ball. I know there's a lot of conversation about his status of potentially running a lot of reps as a point guard with this team. And we saw a healthy amount of that in that first game. And there were a number of things that I really liked, especially on the offensive end. I'll start quickly with this defense. A really cool stat from last night's game was that Thunder players went 1 for 8 when guarded by Flagg. Small sample size, obviously, but still a very impressive stat. But what stood out to me the absolute most on the offensive end was his playmaking. I think that was his most underrated skill set coming out of Duke. He was so good, especially in the NCAA tournament when it came to making plays, whether it was lob passes or skip passes across the court. He is a very underrated playmaker at that size and at that position. And we saw that a ton here in this first preseason matchup. I'll start here with the possession where Dallas was reversing the ball along the perimeter against OKC zone, and Flagg gets a catch at the top of the key and does an amazing job at driving a closeout and getting to the middle of the zone. That is a top principle of beating any zone defense, getting the ball to the middle, and he ended up with a great dump off pass to Derek Lively for a strong finish at the rim. There's another possession here where Flagg is pressured full court by Cason Wallace while other OKC defenders are zoned up off the ball. Flagg does a great job at using his height and size to pin Wallace down to the middle of the floor, again doing a great job at breaking down that zone and throwing another great dump off pass, this time to Dwight Powell. And here is yet another example of Flagg reading the zone correctly by finding the middle. This time he feeds PJ Washington with a thread the needle pass on a cut, and Washington nails an and one layup right at the rim. So once again, I love Flagg's playmaking. I love his ability to read and dissect the zone. We saw a healthy amount of that throughout the NCAA tournament, and he did that at a high level in this first game. That is going to be a huge staple for him this season, especially as a ton of teams are utilizing zone defenses throughout the regular season and the playoffs. Another thing that I really loved from him on offense was his shooting. That is going to be a massive equalizer for him in Dallas. That was a massive focus point both last season and throughout the draft. Can Flagg knock down jump shots? And he did a solid job of that in this first game. Here's a play where we've got an empty corner pick and roll on the right side of the floor where PJ Washington sets a screen, forces a switch, and I love the confidence by Flagg to pull up for a jumper and knock it down while contested. Then another play on the other side where we have another example of an empty corner pick and roll. This time we have Davis setting the screen, and Jalen Williams on defense is all the way back in a deep drop, so Flagg raises and knocks down the jumper. So again, the jump shot was in question, but you love seeing his confidence with knocking down shots off of screens and off the dribble. That is going to be so important for him as far as diversifying his all-around offensive attack in year one. So again, the sample size was small. This was the preseason, but what you look for in the preseason are flashes, and we saw just that from Cooper Flagg on both ends of the basketball. Again, what I loved the most was the amazing playmaking, which I thought again was his most underrated skill set at Duke, and also the confidence with his jumper. And hopefully that is something that can stay consistent throughout the entirety of the season. I'm not asking for him to like average 10 assists per game and be a 40% three-point shooter the entire year, but if he can at least be confident with those things and do it with a lot of reps and at a high volume, that is going to be huge for his development as potentially one of the best players in the entire league years from now.